So what's the controversy in this aliyah we just read? Let me kind of wrap everything up. It's in that first line. And from the day on which you bring the sheaf of elevation offering, the day after the Sabbath, mimachorat haShabbat, you shall count off 7 weeks. So what's our practice? Our practice is that the Shabbat is not a Sabbath day, but the first day of Passover, the first day of Pesach. As we've seen in this Torah reading, there's a connection between the Shabbat and prohibitions on work, on milacha, just like there are on Shabbat for a lot of these holidays. And so they used kind of the term Shabbat here interchangeably with that first day of Pesach, and that's what we know. From the second night, the day after, we start counting, and we count 7 weeks, and then we get ourselves to the 6th of Sivan, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, and that's Shavuot, which of course isn't mentioned here. It's mentioned in other calendars in the Torah, but it's not mentioned right here. However, in ancient times, a few centuries back, not all of the Jewish minds agreed that mimachorat haShabbat meant start counting the day after the first day of Pesach. Some of them took it a little more literally and said we should wait for the first Shabbat after the beginning of Pesach, which means if Pesach starts in the middle of the week, you don't start counting until you get to the Saturday a few days later, which would make the first day of counting Saturday night into Sunday. And if we followed that way, then every year Shavuot would be on a Sunday. It would be a Sunday celebration, which I always thought would have been such a cool thing in modern times. Shavuot has lost a lot of its luster and significance, at least in North America. You know, a lot of people know about Pesach. A lot of people know about Hanukkah for sure. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Shavuot, you eat some blintzes, maybe a cheesecake, right? It's not as big a deal. It's not as significant as some of the other celebrations. But how cool would it have been if every Shavuot was a Sunday, this special Sunday morning celebration? And it could have been all based on the controversy, the disagreement of this phrase, mimachorat haShabbat. What exactly does that mean, the day after the Sabbath? Like I said, our practice, the rabbinic interpretation that was accepted, is that the Shabbat is that first day of Pesach. But all these years later, we're asking, what if? What if they had said it's not actually until the first Shabbat after Pesach? The reason why they had to standardize it was because every year the harvest could come at a slightly different time, which means Shavuot could be at a slightly different time. And as we started reading in the beginning of this, they want us to be fixed times. And of course, the calendar works much better. You can't say Shavuot is going to be, because also even in Israel, a small country, barley may come up in one part of the country at a different time from another part. So they needed some kind of consistency. But how it could have been a different opportunity for Shavuot always to have been on a Sunday. And why, you may ask, does this remind me of Rabbi Mas? Because when Rabbi Mas and I were studying to become rabbis, our program, one of the requirements for the program was that over the course of the year, you had to come up with a thesis project. And then when we had our big conference and we all got together at the end of it, we had to share our papers, our research papers. My thesis topic was on the Golem. Rabbi Mas's was on the Karaite Jews, who I had never heard of. Maybe you haven't heard them. They're maybe Torah literalists is a way to describe them. They don't really go with the Talmud. Their practice of Judaism is based quite literally on the words of the Torah without an oral law interpretation. And so for them, I will always think of them for this line, because their practice of Shavuot follows, what is it? The first Shabbat after Pesach. They celebrate Shavuot, the Karaite Jews, at a different time from the rest of us. And I never knew about that. And so that's the whole story.